This is Steve coming at you from Rich's Kitchen. We're getting ready here to bake some cheesy breadsticks. They're good. Real simple to make. You don't need much in the way of ingredients. I have here bread flour. You could use all-purpose flour if you so desire. I have sugar, granulated sugar, some garlic salt, some garlic powder, some pizza spice. The pizza spice I'll have up here in the corner, the recipe. You got extra virgin olive oil, some dry active yeast, and some parsley flakes, and some cornmeal to put on the pizza pan so the pizza doesn't stick. The breadsticks don't stick. We set these aside and we'll get started with the flour and everything else. Okay, the recipe calls for 2 cups of flour. So we'll put 2 cups of flour in a bowl about this size. It doesn't have to be much bigger than that. One. 2. We'll leave the flour set aside for later. We'll need that a little bit later. Some later. Alright. Recipe calls for 1.5 teaspoons of garlic salt. There's 1. About a half. We'll put in about a half a teaspoon of sugar, and we'll mix this up with a whisk so those ingredients get mixed throughout the flour. Okay, that's good enough. 1 cup of warm water and 1.5 teaspoon of dry yeast. We don't use the whole pack. So 1. And about a half. And we'll stick the other half of a teaspoon of sugar in with the yeast to give it something to activate on. We'll mix it up. We'll leave that sit for a couple seconds until it starts to activate. While we're waiting for that to activate, before we mix the dough, we need 4 tablespoons of butter. Put that in a small dish. We're going to melt this in the microwave and brush it on top of the dough before we cook it. So usually what I do is I just cut it up in little pieces so it melts easier. On top of that we put our garlic powder. Calls for 1 teaspoon of garlic powder. And I put a half a teaspoon of pizza seasoning in there. Good stuff. Okay, our yeast has started to activate, so now we start to mix. Now we pour the water in slowly and we start to mix. And for that I use a wooden spoon. I like to mix dough with a wooden spoon. Just kind of mix it in slowly. Okay, now we just kind of mix it up till it turns into dough. With a spoon, and then we'll start using our hands. Okay. A little flour on the table here so don't stick to the table. We'll roll the dough out. Now we want to knead it for about 1 minute. The dough feels like it's turning out really, really good. It starts to stick a little bit. Just put a little more powder down, a little more dough down. It won't stick. I tell you, these breadsticks turn out so delicious. They're real simple to make. Later in the cooking process, you'll see the URL of where I got this recipe from. She probably makes a lot of good stuff. Okay, you can feel when the dough is just about ready to, after you get the dough made, then you leave it sit for 1 hour. Get a clean bowl and you put a tablespoon of olive oil in the bottom of the bowl. I do this for pizza too. And I use the same bowl to mix in until I get all the pizza dough I need. Pizza dough needs to sit for like 2 hours. This dough is going to sit for 1 hour. Okay, put that in the bottom of the bowl. That bottle is just about empty. Very little left in there. Kind of spread it around a little bit, because when your dough rises, you want it to grab a hold of that little bit of olive oil. Okay, we stick our in there. We kind of turn over one time. There you go, just like that. And we cover that with a piece of paper towel. And we set aside for 1 hour. Okay, now we have the pizza dough ready. We'll set our warm oven up to 425. That's what your dough should look like after it's risen for about an hour. What I like to do is I like to take my little cornmeal and just kind of sprinkle it down a little bit on the tray here, the pizza tray. I find these pizza trays cook a lot better than stones. You can buy this tray at Walmart for about $8. They don't cost nothing. You buy 2 of them, and then you make one pizza, then you can make another pizza on the next tray, and so forth, and just keep going every 15 minutes, produce a pizza out of the oven. But right now we're making breadsticks. So now we just roll the dough out on the pan, set that aside. Now we have our 4 tablespoons of butter, a teaspoon of garlic salt and a half, and a half a teaspoon of pizza spice, which you use this grinder to make. You can buy them anywhere at any kitchen store. So we're going to stick this in a microwave for about 30 seconds to melt it. While we're waiting for that to melt, we're going to take our fingers and we're going to run the dough out. Now we don't run the dough out too far, just kind of work it out there as far as you want. You don't want it too thick, you don't want it too thin. You can stretch this out to this size pan, which is 18 inches, but this is plenty big. Usually I make the pizza dough, breadsticks, just a little bit smaller than pizza. Yeah, you can smell this, and it really smells good. That dough even smells good. Oven's up to temperature. We'll kind of mix this up, get the spices all throughout. That's why they call this garlic cheesy breadsticks. Now we'll just take this here and we'll just brush it on all over the breadsticks. Start cooking these things and cook enough of them, the house starts smelling really good. And your company, your friends, stomachs will start to growl. Now it's ready to go in the oven to be cooked. We have it spread out with Parmesan cheese, a little sprinkle with Parmesan cheese. We cook the breadsticks for 15 minutes. Okay, let's check it and see what it looks like. Now we check the pizza and see if it's done. It looks really good. Now you notice how it just slides on that tray? Okay, you don't want to cut on this board. So we get out our cutting board. And the tray is still hot, so you want to make sure you wear an oven glove. Slide it off onto the cutting board. Now we take some pizza sauce and warm it up in the oven. Microwave. I usually, for a whole pizza like this, I use a whole jar of it. Okay, now we cut this bad boy up. We have the sauce lightly warmed in the microwave. Don't they look good? Well, you bet they're good.